Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something I think is fascinating. We're going to be moving beyond just, basic conversational English. We're aiming for that C2 level, that realm of what you might call linguistic finesse.
Exactly. And our focus is commerce, but not just any commerce. We're talking about those everyday situations, shopping, buying a coffee, but with a much more advanced, a much more sophisticated strategy.
So this isn't about where can I find the milk or how much does this cost?
Not at all. Our mission today is a proper deep dive into how you discuss, say, the aesthetic quality of a garment or the precise provenance of a vegetable.
Or even the technical specs of an espresso shot.
Right. It's all about being articulate, being polite, and having this deep cultural awareness when you're navigating what look like simple transactions on the surface.
And the source material we've got for this is frankly exceptional. It breaks down the advanced vocabulary, the idioms.
And the pragmatic strategies. That's the key part. It's not just the words, it's how you use them.
It really is. The sources map this out across 3 very different commercial settings, and it gives you this roadmap to sounding not just fluent, but polished, truly natural.
And we have 3 specific scenes we'll be breaking down today. Each one requires a really interesting shift in register and focus. So our first stop is a chic clothing boutique.
Okay, high end.
Very high end. The language there is all about aesthetics, getting the fit just right, and using that kind of luxury terminology correctly.
And then from there, we're going somewhere completely different.
A total pivot from the polished floors of the boutique to the earthy, bustling atmosphere of a farmer's market.
I love that contrast. So the language must change completely.
It has to. Here, the focus is all on origin, freshness, building rapport, and even some very soft negotiation tactics. It's about relationship building.
And the final stop?
Our final stop is the specialty coffee shop, a place that is, well, it's intense. It requires technical specificity when you order.
Oh, absolutely.
And, maybe more importantly, perfect, pragmatic communication when something goes wrong. Service recovery.
So the real value for you listening to this is that by analyzing these scenarios, we're essentially giving you a shortcut, a way to understand why certain words are chosen over others.
And how to use an idiom so it sounds natural, not like you memorized it from a textbook.
Exactly. It's about understanding the context, the subtext.
Yeah.
We're pretty sure you're going to have a few aha moments during this.
I think so too. So shall we jump into our first environment? The world of high-end fashion.
Let's do it.
Precision is everything here.
Okay, so our first scene is this exchange between a customer, Sarah, and a sales assistant in the pretty upscale boutique. And the core concept, as the sources point out, is all about linguistic precision. We're getting away from those generic words like nice or pretty.
Right. Those are conversational dead ends in a way.
They are. Here it's about using a precise aesthetic vocabulary that tells the staff, I know what I'm looking for and I respect your expertise.
And that precision is just so critical. It establishes rapport almost instantly. It signals that this isn't just a transaction, it's going to be a consultation. The words you choose show a mutual respect.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Sarah walks in. The assistant might say something to welcome her, but they don't just say, feel free to browse.
No, the source material highlights a very specific, much more sophisticated verb. They invite her to peruse.
Ah, peruse. I love that word. It feels so different from browse.
It has a different weight, doesn't it? To peruse implies a careful, almost scholarly, leisurely examination. When they say, feel free to peruse our new collection, it's an invitation to take your time.
It signals that this is a high-touch environment. No one's going to rush you.
Exactly. And that the items themselves deserve that level of slow, careful consideration. They're not just disposable fashion.
And our sources really flag this as a C2 marker in this kind of setting. Why does one little verb carry so much weight?
Well, I think it's because it subtly manages expectations on both sides. Browsing feels casual, non-committal. You might be just killing time.
Where you could just walk out.
But if you are perusing, you're signaling an investment of time and attention, and that implicitly suggests a higher likelihood of making a purchase. You're respecting the items as things to be studied.
That makes perfect sense.
No.
Okay, so now Sarah starts the conversation. She needs to define her goal. She doesn't just say, I need an outfit.
No, she uses a fantastic idiomatic phrase. She says, I'm actually on a bit of a mission.
On a bit of a mission. I love that. It's engaging, it's natural,
And it tells the sales assistant very politely that she has a specific goal in mind. It's not trivial. It kind of cuts through the small talk and gets right to the advisory part of the relationship.
And she immediately follows that up with her aesthetic goal. She says she's looking for an ensemble.
Another key word.
An ensemble that's both sophisticated and contemporary. And she's aiming for understated elegance. Let's just pause on the word ensemble. What's the significance there?
Well, ensemble is one of those great French loanwords that just elevates the conversation. It's not an outfit. An outfit is just clothes. An ensemble is a complete coordinated look.
All the pieces are meant to work together.
In harmony, exactly. It's a curated selection. So when she uses that word, she's confirming she isn't just there to buy a single dress. She's building an entire visual statement.
Which signals a much deeper understanding of style.
Instantly. And that phrase she uses, understated elegance.
Yes. Why is that so powerful?
Because it's so nuanced. It's managing two ideas that could seem contradictory. She doesn't want something flashy or trendy. She wants elegance, something classic, refined.
But not loud.
But not loud. That's the understated part. It shouldn't scream for attention. And you can see in the source material, the assistant immediately gets it. They don't miss a beat. They suggest a silk jumpsuit with a modern silhouette. They're on the same page.
Okay, let's shift from the overall aesthetic to the more technical side of things, specifically about the fit and the materials.
Right. So the assistant might describe the fabric of that jumpsuit as having a beautiful drape.
Okay, the drape. That's not a word you hear every day.
It's a very specific, almost technical term. It refers to how a material hangs, how it flows on the body. A heavy silk will have a very fluid, beautiful drape. A stiff linen, for example, would have a much more structured drape.
So by using that word, the assistant is showing they're not just a salesperson. They have real knowledge about textiles, about garment construction.
Precisely. It reinforces their expertise. If they just said, oh, it feels really nice, it wouldn't have anywhere near the same impact.
It's a small thing, but it builds trust.
It really does. And all of this talk about getting the perfect fit, it naturally leads us to a key conceptual pairing in fashion. Off the rack versus bespoke.
Right. So even when you're buying something in a standard size, which is off the rack,
you're still mentally comparing it to the gold standard, which is bespoke, something custom made for one specific person.
So understanding that difference, made for everyone versus made just for me, it kind of frames the whole conversation, doesn't it?
It does. The goal becomes achieving that bespoke feel, that personalization, but within a retail setting.
Which leads us perfectly to the next term. Tailoring. So Sarah tries on the jumpsuit, and there's a small issue. She says it feels a touch long in the leg.
A very common problem.
And then she asks us about professional tailoring.
And making that distinction is so important. Tailoring is more than just a simple alteration, like hemming a pair of pants.
Right, it's not just shortening something.
No, tailoring implies skilled structural adjustments. It's about shaping the garment to the body to create that perfect, personalized silhouette. So when Sarah specifies professional tailoring, she's signaling her high expectations.
And she also frames it as a straightforward adjustment. Why is that phrasing so effective?
It's brilliant because it minimizes any perceived hassle. She's showing that she understands this is a standard part of the process. She isn't creating a problem. She's just asking for the final finishing touch to achieve perfection. It manages the whole situation beautifully.
It's all about making it feel easy and collaborative.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move to the part that can sometimes be a little awkward, the money. Sarah needs to ask the price. And she uses this wonderfully informal, very C2 level phrase. She asks, what's the damage?
Ah, yes. What's the damage? It's a linguistic gem. It's very idiomatic, often associated with British English, but it's widely understood.
It does so many things at once. It's humorous. For one.
It is. It acknowledges that the price is probably going to be high, and it injects a bit of personality and lightness into what could be a very dry moment.
It's a very human way of saying, okay, I'm bracing myself, give me the number.
Precisely. But notice how the sales assistant responds. They don't mirror that informality.
No, they switch right back to a professional register. They say, it retails for $350.
And that verb, retails, is the key. It retails for. That is standard professional pricing language. It sets the price in a formal business context. It's the official, established cost.
So it removes the humor and just reestablishes the seriousness of the transaction.
Exactly. They're a professional providing business information, not a friend quoting a number.
And then comes the little twist. The deal gets sweetened. The assistant mentions a private promotion for our clientele.
And that phrasing is so deliberate. It's not a sale. A sale is for everyone. This is a private promotion just for our clientele. It's all about exclusivity.
It reinforces Sarah's status as a valued in-the-know customer.
It does. And her response is the perfect idiomatic bookend. That certainly sweetens the deal.
It's such a great phrase, a very sophisticated way to say that the discount makes it much more appealing.
It acknowledges the value proposition perfectly. And then, to wrap it all up, Sarah goes back to that idea of the ensemble.
Right, she doesn't just walk to the cash register.
No, she leverages the assistant's expertise one last time. She asks for minimalist gold jewelry that might complement the neckline to complete the ensemble beautifully.
The choice of words there, complement and complete, feels so intentional.
It is. She's not just asking for a necklace, she's asking for advice on how to finish the look, how to make all the pieces harmonize. This whole interaction, from start to finish, shows how advanced language can turn a simple shopping trip into a creative, consultative partnership.
It's really amazing how much information about status, expectation, and knowledge is packed into just a few carefully chosen words.
That's the essence of C2 communication. The sophistication is in the specificity.
We've gone from just buying a dress to curating an ensemble.
All through vocabulary. If she had just said, got any necklaces that go with this, the entire dynamic would have been completely different.
Okay, so now we need to make a really sharp pivot. We're leaving that polished, precise world of the boutique.
Leaving the silk and the marble floors behind.
And we're heading into a completely different space. The earthy, maybe a little chaotic, bustling atmosphere of a farmer's market. The language has to shift dramatically here.
This is such a crucial transition to analyze because the core values are different. In the boutique, the value is in the brand, the finish, the aesthetic. Here at the market, the value is in the origin.
And the relationship.
And the relationship, exactly. So the language has to reflect authenticity, maybe even a bit of intimacy rather than that cool formality. It's all about building rapport.
So let's start with the key vocabulary, the words that signal this different value system. First up, artisanal.
Artisanal, it's such a powerful word in this context. It immediately tells you something about quality and craftsmanship.
It's the opposite of mass-produced.
The linguistic opposite, absolutely. Yeah. It refers to products, cheese, bread, jam, whatever it might be made in a traditional, non-mechanized way. Small batches. A C2 speaker knows to use this word because it implies a quality that comes from human care, not industrial efficiency.
Okay, but the next term is the one that I think is the most sophisticated for this setting. Provenance.
Yes, provenance. It's such a beautiful word. It's the high-level term for the origin or the source of something.
It has a history in the art world, right?
It does. It was used to track the ownership history of a painting to prove it was authentic. And when it moved into the food world, asking about the provenance of your vegetables became the really sophisticated way of asking where they came from and how they were grown.
So our customer, David, he could just ask, where are these from?
Of course, and he'd be understood. But using provenance is the C2 marker because it signals that you understand why the origin matters.
You're showing that you value transparency in the supply chain.
Exactly. You're telling the vendor, Carlos, I get it. I know the source affects the quality and the price, and I respect that you can tell me the story. It elevates the whole conversation.
Okay, another term that's all about timing. Peak season.
Right. And this is more descriptive than just saying something is seasonal. Well, peak season refers to that very specific, often fleeting window of time when a crop is at its absolute best. The peak of its flavor, its abundance, its nutritional value. When a vendor says something is at its peak season, that's the strongest possible guarantee of quality they can give.
And that links to the whole philosophy of the market itself, which is summed up in our next term, farm to table.
Yes. Farm to table describes that ideal food chain. It's direct, with minimal processing straight from the farm to you, the consumer. It's a promise of freshness, local sourcing, and usually higher ethical standards. If you use that term, you're showing you understand the core values of the entire place.
Okay, so let's get into the dialogue. David, our customer, opens by signaling that he's a discerning cook. He says he's attempting a rather ambitious recipe.
That is just excellent phrasing. He's not just making dinner.
No, it's an ambitious recipe.
And that immediately elevates the vendor's role. Carlos isn't just selling him some vegetables. He's supplying crucial, high-quality components for a culinary project. It prompts Carlos to respond in kind, to match that level of seriousness.
And he really does. He describes his heirloom tomatoes as phenomenal and having a more complex in flavor.
And then he gives that killer detail about the courgettes. He points out that they have the blossoms still attached.
Now, I wouldn't have known what that meant.
And that's the point. It's an incredible, specific detail. It is tangible, visual proof of extreme freshness because those delicate blossoms fall off very, very quickly after harvesting. So Carlos is moving beyond just marketing slogans. He's providing demonstrable evidence of quality.
He's validating David's need for ingredients that can shine.
He is. And then they move on to assessing ripeness, and they use another elevated term. They talk about the produce being at their zenith.
The zenith, the highest point.
It's almost poetic, isn't it? It means perfectly ripe. And then Carlos actually teaches David how to check. He says, a gentle press, firm, but with a slight give. That's the sweet spot.
So it's collaborative. It's a shared moment of expertise.
It fosters so much rapport. It's not just a sale, it's a micro lesson.
Okay, now we get to the trickiest part of this kind of interaction. Negotiation. David uses a very soft approach. He asks, is there any wiggle room on that price?
The perfect phrase. Wiggle room is the ideal, respectful, colloquial idiom for starting a negotiation in a setting where the relationship is important.
It's much less aggressive than haggling.
So much less aggressive. Haggling can feel confrontational. Demanding a discount can feel like you're undervaluing their work. But wiggle room, it's collaborative. It's like saying, can we find a solution here that works for both of us?
It's interesting because if he's buying a lot and paying cash, he could just be more direct. Why use the idiom?
Because the C2 speaker understands the cultural pragmatics of face saving. In many English-speaking cultures, especially when dealing with artisanal goods, being too direct about price can be seen as rude. Wiggle room preserves the vendor's dignity and the integrity of their pricing.
And Carlos, the vendor, he takes the win-win option. He keeps the price the same.
But he says, I'll give you a handful of this fresh basil on the house.
On the house, a great phrase.
It's a classic high rapport move. He maintains the perceived value of his main products, the tomatoes and courgettes, but he still gives David that feeling of getting a little something extra. It's a gift, a gesture of goodwill. He's trading a low-cost item for high-value customer loyalty.
And David validates this whole approach at the end when he compliments the unparalleled personal touch of the market.
That's the key takeaway. In this commercial setting, the relationship is just as important as the product, and the language they use, from provenance to wiggle room, is what builds and maintains that relationship of mutual respect.
All right, for our third and final scene, we're making another big shift. We're back indoors, back to a world of technical precision. We're in the specialty coffee shop.
And this environment is a true test. The language is dense, it's fast-paced, and it is full of jargon.
It really is.
Yeah.
And a C2 speaker needs to use this terminology not to sound smart, but just to be clear and efficient.
Exactly. It's about ensuring accuracy in a place where things move very, very quickly.
Okay, let's go through the key vocabulary that signals you know what you're talking about in this world. First up, a term about quality control. Single origin.
Single origin. This is fundamental. It means the coffee beans are all from one specific place, one farm, one estate, one region.
So not a blend.
Not a blend, the opposite of a generic blend. By asking for a single origin, you're showing you want a specific, traceable flavor profile. It is essentially the coffee world's version of asking for the provenance.
I like that connection. Okay, next, a technical verb for how the coffee is made. To pull a shot.
Right. This is the industry standard verb for extracting espresso. It's operational language. If you, as a customer, use a phrase like pull a shot, you're speaking the barista's language.
It just cuts down on any potential miscommunication.
Immediately. Next, a more advanced way to talk about taste. We have flavor profile.
So not just taste or flavor.
No, the flavor profile is the whole package. It's the complex combination of the aroma, the acidity, the body, and those specific taste notes like citrus or nutty or chocolatey. When our customer, Jessica, asks for a profile that's less acidic, more chocolatey, she's being incredibly precise.
She's giving them a clear target to aim for.
Exactly. Okay, now 2 quick business terms that are essential for understanding the scene. First, upselling.
We all know this one, even if we don't know the name.
We do. It's the business practice of suggesting a more expensive item or an add-on or a larger size. The barista suggesting a double shot or pastry. That's a classic upsell. It's a basic strategy to increase the value of the sale.
And the other term for when things go wrong,
Yeah.
customer retention.
Right. Customer retention is a whole strategy of keeping your customers loyal so they come back.
Yeah.
When there's a mistake, the apology, the free voucher, the quick fix, that's not just being nice.
It's a structured business strategy.
It's a structured customer retention strategy designed to rebuild trust and secure your future business.
Okay, let's dive into the dialogue. Jessica, the customer, and Tyler, the barista. She starts off strong, immediately showing she knows her stuff.
She really does. She asks what single origin they're pulling and then specifies the flavor profile she wants. It's so efficient. Maximum information, minimal words.
She's not wasting anyone's time.
Not at all. And it allows Tyler to give her a very precise answer. It's a Brazilian bean, notes of dark chocolate and almond. Boom. Mutual expertise is established.
Then Tyler goes to the upsell. He suggests a double shot and an almond croissant.
And it's a smart upsell. He's using the information she gave him. He links the almond croissant directly to the chocolate notes she said she wanted. It's context aware.
But Jessica's response to this is just brilliant. She smiles and says, that's a bit of an effective upsell. I'll pass for today, though.
It's a masterstroke of pragmatic communication, isn't it? By actually naming the technique, calling it an effective upsell, she does something amazing.
What's that?
She playfully acknowledges the game of the interaction. She sees and respects his sales technique, but she politely declines without making it awkward for anyone. It shows this incredible social and intellectual intelligence.
It's basically saying, nice try, I see what you did there, and I appreciate the hustle.
Exactly. While still being completely in control of her own choice. It's fantastic.
Okay, but now for the real test, the service error. The drink arrives, but it was made with dairy milk instead of the oat milk she ordered.
The moment of truth.
And she prefaces her complaint with that classic, ultra-polite phrase, "Oh, excuse me, I hate to be a bother, but..."
That preface is absolutely essential in this kind of high-context English communication. I hate to be a bother. It's a crucial face-saving device.
Why is it so important? If she's frustrated, why not just say, this is wrong?
Because her goal is a fast, positive resolution, not a confrontation. Starting with, this is wrong, can immediately put the other person on the defensive. But I hate to be a bother signals, I know you're busy and I regret adding to your workload, but there's a small issue. It keeps the tone non-confrontational.
It makes them want to help you rather than argue with you.
It absolutely does. It's the most effective route to getting what you want.
And then she states the problem, but she does it factually. She says, I think this was made with dairy. I can tell by the way it's separated.
Another brilliant move. She's not accusing him. She's not saying, you made a mistake. She's presenting objective empirical evidence, the visual separation of the milk. It removes all doubt about the error without making it personal.
It's just a statement of fact.
It is a masterclass in polite, evidence-based complaint.
And Tyler's response is textbook perfect recovery. An immediate apology. He takes personal responsibility.
And he promises personal action. My apologies. Let me remake that for you personally right away. That word, personally, is so important. It tells Jessica he is now personally invested in making this right for her.
And then comes the voucher. Their retention strategy in action. But what's fascinating here is that he's transparent about it.
This is the most modern and, I think, most sophisticated part of the whole exchange. He doesn't just hand her the voucher. He explains the business logic behind it.
He actually says, we see it as a key part of our customer retention. We want you to come back.
Yes, he's openly citing the business strategy. And that transparency builds a much deeper level of trust and credibility.
How so?
Because he's treating her like an intelligent partner in the transaction. He's not just going through the motions of an apology. He's explaining that their business philosophy is to value her so much that they have a strategy to ensure she remains a customer.
So it turns a simple apology into a statement of the company's values.
Precisely. And that willingness to acknowledge the mechanics of commerce, whether it's naming the upsell or naming the retention strategy, seems to be a real hallmark of this advanced self-aware communication style.
It seems like the pretense is gone.
It is. Both people know the rules of the game, and by acknowledging them openly, they can move past them and build a more honest, trusting relationship.
Wow. What a deep dive that was.
Yeah.
We've gone from the language of understated elegance and perusing in a boutique all the way to the technical jargon of flavor profiles and pulling a shot in the coffee shop.
And I think the big lesson when you synthesize all these sources is really clear. Advanced English fluency isn't just about knowing more words.
No, it's about knowing how and when to use them.
It's about being linguistically adaptable, knowing when to be formal, when to build rapport, when to be technically precise. It's all about the context.
And really mastering these situational dialogues, understanding the cultural subtext, the need for politeness, the specific jargon, that's what moves you beyond just being understood.
It's what makes people perceive you as articulate, as polished, as someone who is truly culturally integrated.
So we really want to encourage you as you go about your week to move from just passively listening to this to actively trying it.
Absolutely. The next time you're in one of these situations, listen for these phrases. And maybe even try to use one. Ask about the provenance of the cheese.
Or comment on the drape of a fabric. Or even, if you're feeling brave, playfully acknowledge an effective upsell with that kind of humor Jessica used.
And just see what happens. Notice how the dynamic of the conversation changes. When you speak their professional or their elevated language, you signal that you're a serious participant. And that commands a different level of respect and consultation.
It really does. And that brings us back to that powerful idea from the coffee shop, that idea of transparency.
When both Jessica and Tyler just openly acknowledged the business mechanics, the upsell, the retention strategy,
They were both sort of saying, I see what's happening here, and I respect it.
it was a moment of mutual respect. And it leaves us with a really interesting question for you to think about.
A final provocative thought.
Does acknowledging the game of commerce, actually naming the upsell or the retention strategy, does that lead to more genuine, more trusting, and ultimately more effective communication than just pretending the business side of things doesn't exist?
That's a great question. Is that kind of transparency, that intellectual honesty, the key to deepening what seems like a simple transactional relationship?
Something to mull over.
And a deep dive for another day.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us as we explore the fine art of sophisticated communication in commerce.
Keep refining, keep communicating, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, the shortcut to being well-informed. We don't just summarize your sources. We provide the strategic analysis you need to really leverage that information.
And today we are doing a deep dive that I think goes far beyond your typical language guide.
Oh, absolutely. We're moving past that basic tourist fluency, the simple hello and thank you.
The coffee and the croissants.
Exactly. We are aiming for true linguistic command.
Right. And the situations we're looking at are much higher stakes. Travel, especially when it gets complicated, isn't just a series of vocabulary tests you can pass or fail.
Yeah.
It's about navigating these unfamiliar, sometimes even, adversarial systems. It's about resolving actual problems and engaging with the culture on a much deeper intellectual level.
The language of management and insight, as you put it.
Precisely.
I mean, anyone can learn to say coffee, right? But what happens when your luggage goes missing?
Yeah.
Where you're trying to understand the history of a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Your simple fluency just evaporates in those moments.
It completely falls apart. And that's where you need this kind of linguistic leverage.
And that is the goal of this deep dive. We want to equip you, the listener, with the advanced vocabulary and, just as importantly, the pragmatic know-how to communicate with total clarity
And tact.
but also with a firm professional assertiveness. It's not about sounding smarter for the sake of it.
No, it's about getting better results.
Exactly. It's the difference between being a tourist who is just sort of processed and being a competent worldly traveler who commands respect and gets a higher standard of service.
And to do that, we have sourced some incredibly detailed scenarios that show this in action.
We've broken down the material into 3 very distinct high-level travel situations that demand more than just basic phrases.
So what's first?
First up, we're going to analyze the subtle art of a sophisticated hotel check-in.
Okay, so making those specific tailored requests without sounding like you're being difficult.
Exactly. Then, second, we are going to tackle the ultimate travel stress test.
Oh, I know this one. Lost luggage.
The lost luggage protocol. We will arm you with the formal industry language you need to manage that crisis and make sure your claim is taken seriously from minute 1.
And then finally,
we explore how a little bit of linguistic precision can turn a passive cultural tour into a rich educational conversation.
unlocking those deeper layers of a place. I love that.
So, for each of these, We'll start by breaking down the key high-level vocabulary, and then we'll get into the pragmatic analysis, the how and the when to use these terms for the biggest impact.
Because it's one thing to know a word, but it's another thing entirely to master its application.
That's the whole game, finding the pressure points in communication.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that seamless but very strategic start, the advanced hotel check-in.
So when we're talking about an advanced hotel check-in, the goal is really twofold.
Okay.
First, you want to establish a positive professional rapport right away. And second, you need to proactively confirm and, secure every single element of your booking.
Especially the specific things you asked for in advance.
Especially those. We're moving beyond just getting a room key to actually sort of structuring the entire stay from the outset.
And that first interaction is so critical, isn't it? The way that front desk agent sees you in those first, 90 seconds?
It sets the tone for everything.
It dictates the level of service you're going to get for the next few days.
Mm-hmm.
You want to signal competence, not helplessness or entitlement.
Right. So let's start with the vocabulary that immediately lifts that conversation to a higher level.
Let's do it.
First, a very common word, but one that needs to be used with precision: amenities.
Okay, so we all know amenities. Pool gym.
We think we do, but when you use it professionally, you're prompting a much more comprehensive answer. We're talking about all the desirable, useful features of the hotel. And for a business traveler, that's not just the pool.
Right. It's the Wi-Fi. Is it actually high speed? Is the business center just a dusty computer in a closet, or is it functional?
Exactly. So asking, could you briefly outline the hotel's complimentary amenities and their operating hours, is so much more effective than just asking random questions.
And it sets expectations. It prevents that disappointment later when you discover the state-of-the-art gym is just a single broken treadmill.
It's about getting all the data up front. Now, next term. The concierge.
Ah, yes. The most misunderstood role in a hotel.
So often. A concierge is not just an extra receptionist who hands out maps. They are a specialist. Their real value is their deep, localized, often exclusive knowledge.
The person who can get you a table at that restaurant that's been booked for months.
That's their superpower.
Mm-hmm.
Or arranging complex transport or suggesting an itinerary that only a local would know. You're not just asking for information, you're accessing expertise.
That's a great distinction. Asking a receptionist, where's a good place to eat, gets you the tourist answer.
The safe answer.
The safe answer. But asking, could the concierge advise on a restaurant for a client dinner that needs a sophisticated but discreet ambiance? That's a completely different level of request.
You're framing the task as one that requires their specific skill set. You're showing respect for their profession.
And you get a much better result. Okay, what's next?
Let's talk money. Specifically, the thing that often creates friction, the incidental hold.
Mystery charge.
It shouldn't be a mystery. Mastering this term is so practical. It's simply a temporary authorization on your credit card to cover potential extras. Minibar, room service, that kind of thing.
But the key is knowing the details, right?
Absolutely. It's not enough to know what it is. You have to confirm the specific amount. Is it $50 per night? 100. And even more critically, you need to confirm the timeline for its release.
Why is that timeline so important to nail down?
Because a lot of travelers, especially international ones, assume that hold vanishes the second they check out. But it can often linger for days, sometimes even a week, tying up your available credit.
Which can be a huge problem if you're on a long trip.
A huge problem. So you ask, could you confirm the incidental hold amount and the expected release time frame for my card? It's a simple professional question that prevents a lot of post-trip stress.
Okay, that's a good one. Now, you mentioned managing entitlement. How do we do that?
With a very powerful, very formal word. Stipulation.
Stipulation. Sounds very official.
It is. It means a condition or a requirement that has been agreed upon beforehand. It's part of your contract with the hotel.
So let's say I booked a room with a sea view, and they try to give me one facing the parking lot.
Exactly. In that case, you don't just request a change. A request can be denied. You invoke the stipulation. You say, I believe I had a stipulation in my confirmed booking for a room with a sea view.
Wow. The power dynamic there just completely shifts.
Instantly. A request is a favor. A stipulation is a contractual obligation. The burden is now on them to fix it, or to offer you something better if they can't. It's professional, it's firm, and it's incredibly effective.
It's like a polite form of legal maneuvering. I like it.
And finally, a more nuanced term for comfort. Aspect.
Aspect. As in the view.
It's more than just the view. It's a refined way to talk about the room's direction, its exposure, and its general character, instead of just saying, I want a quiet room.
Which is pretty vague.
Very vague. You'd say, I'd prefer a room with a quieter aspect, perhaps overlooking the courtyard rather than the main street.
So it's about noise mapping the hotel. You're showing you understand that a room next to the elevator or the ice machine is going to be a problem.
You're showing you're a seasoned traveler. You know that rooms at the far end of a corridor are usually the quietest. Requesting a more secluded aspect signals to the agent that you have specific needs and you know how the hotel is laid out, so they're more likely to find you that perfect, quiet room.
Okay, so with that vocabulary in our back pocket, let's look at the source material. This dialogue with Alex Carter at check-in.
Yes, it's a perfect example of how to sequence these ideas.
He really does take the linguistic high ground immediately. He confirms his name, his reservation, and then bam, he goes straight to the stipulation.
He does. He says, I believe I had a stipulation included in the booking confirmation for a corner room with a king bed. He frames the whole conversation around what was already promised.
But he softens it, too. He adds the context. He says he's a light sleeper and would appreciate a room away from high-traffic areas like elevators and ice machines.
And providing that why is so smart. It turns him from a demanding guest into a person with a specific need that they can help solve. It makes them a partner in finding a solution.
And it works. The agent doesn't just give him any old room. They specifically find room 714, highlighting that it's at the far end of the corridor and has a very quiet aspect.
His precise language got a precise result.
But I do have a question here, a point of critique maybe. Isn't there a risk of sounding, well, pretentious, using words like stipulation and aspect, especially if it's not a five-star hotel?
That is a completely fair question, and it all comes down to tone.
Right.
If he had marched in and said, I demand my stipulation be met, then yes, that's arrogant. But look at how he phrased it in the source material. I believe I had a stipulation.
It's a polite qualifier. It's confident, but not confrontational.
Exactly. It's just professional courtesy. You're using the correct terminology to manage the business transaction, and that's appropriate at any level of establishment.
Okay, that makes sense. Then he moves on to leveraging the other services.
Yes, he asks about the concierge, David, for a very specific, challenging task, getting a last-minute dinner reservation for a client. And he even gives the criteria.
Sophisticated but relaxed atmosphere. He's not just dumping the problem on him, he's collaborating.
And the receptionist's response is so telling. She validates the concierge's value, saying he has an encyclopedic knowledge and can get tables that are unavailable online.
It proves the point.
Yeah.
Ask a sophisticated question, you get access to a sophisticated resource.
And then he just efficiently ticks off the practicalities, confirms the gym, the Wi-Fi, and critically clarifies the incidental hold procedure. He's managing their bureaucracy for his own benefit.
So the big takeaway here for the listener is pretty profound. It's not just about getting a better room.
Not at all.
Using specific, appropriate language like stipulation or incidental hold instantly changes how the staff perceives you. You're not just another tourist. You're a seasoned, competent traveler who understands the system.
And that perception, that tone you set in the first 2 minutes, often leads to better service, more proactive help for your entire stay. It's preemptive problem solving.
It's risk mitigation wrapped in professionalism.
Yeah.
But, as you said, what happens when the whole system breaks down?
Ah, yes. Now we move from seamless service to outright crisis management.
Lost luggage. I mean, just saying the words gives me a little bit of anxiety.
It's the great fear of every traveler. That moment the carousel grinds to a halt and your bag just isn't there.
And all that cool, calm, collected language we just talked about is the first thing to go out the window. The stress response just takes over.
It does, and that is the exact moment you have to double down on procedural control. You have to fight the emotional response with cold, hard, formal language.
This section is all about using the industry's own terms to signal that you know the process, you know their obligations, and you're not going to be easily brushed aside.
You have to cut through that bureaucratic fog with absolute clarity. So let's get the vocabulary of crisis management on the table.
All right, let's do it. First, how do we even describe the problem?
You start with the facts of the failure. Your bag is mishandled or misrouted. These are the official industry terms.
And you're deliberately not using the word lost.
Deliberately. In airline terminology, lost is a final state. It implies the bag is gone forever and triggers a whole different level of compensation. Mishandled or misrouted means it's an operational error that they're obligated to fix.
So using their term acknowledges the process that they have to start, which is the trace.
Exactly. Which brings us to the next procedural step. You must immediately file a report or lodge a claim. This is the non-negotiable action that makes it an official problem.
And this is where that critical acronym comes in.
This is the magic key, PIR, the Property Irregularity Report.
Okay, let's get into the weeds on the PIR. Why is knowing that specific acronym so important?
Because the PIR is the universal international document for this exact situation. It's the birth certificate for your claim. The moment a PIR is created with its unique reference number, your bag is officially entered into a global tracking system that all airlines use.
So if there's no PIR,
If there's no PIR, then as far as the global system is concerned, your bag doesn't exist as a problem to be solved. By walking up and saying, I need to file a PIR, you are signaling that you understand the mechanics of their entire system.
you're essentially telling them, let's skip the pleasantries. I know the first step you were required to take is to generate this report, so let's do that now.
It immediately moves the conversation from a general complaint to a specific professional instruction. Now, to add urgency, you need a powerful verb.
Exactly.
Expedite.
To speed things up.
Yes, but it's a formal, forceful word. Asking, what steps are you taking to expedite the recovery process is a demand for priority action. It's strong without being angry.
Okay, so you filed the report, you've asked them to expedite it. But you're standing there with nothing but the clothes on your back.
And that's where the financial lifeline comes in. Interim compensation or reimbursement.
This is the money the airline gives you to buy essentials while you wait.
Correct. Things like toiletries, a change of underwear, maybe a clean shirt for a meeting, but, and this is so important, you must ask for the specifics and you must keep all of your receipts.
All of them.
All of them. There will be a daily spending limit, so you need to ask, what is the maximum daily reimbursement for essential items? And what is the exact process for submitting my receipts? Get that information before you leave the counter.
And finally, the most important piece of paper you will get.
Your bureaucratic shield and sword. The reference number from the PIR. That code is your single key to everything that comes next. Checking the status online, calling for an update, filing for reimbursement.
You never, ever leave that desk without that number written down clearly.
Never. Okay, so with those terms in mind, let's look at the dialogue with Chloe. This is a masterclass in maintaining composure and control under extreme stress.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. She gets to the counter, and instead of panic, she leads with a calm diagnosis.
She does. My flight arrived 30 minutes ago. The carousel is stopped, and my bag appears to have been mishandled. Notice, she uses mishandled, not lost.
And then she immediately shows she knows the procedure. She doesn't wait for them to tell her what to do. She says, I understand I need a property irregularity report, PIR, to initiate the trace.
She's driving the bus. She is in complete control of the process from the start.
But the truly brilliant move, I think, is her immediate focus on the consequence.
Ah, yes. This is strategically crucial.
She doesn't just say, my stuff is in there. She says, I'm here for a critical industry conference that begins tomorrow morning. My specialized presentation materials, along with my professional attire, are in that suitcase.
And that changes everything. For an airline, a bag full of clothes is just an inconvenience. But a bag with time-sensitive professional materials for a conference.
That's a high-stakes, high-consequence failure on their part. It elevates her claim to the top of the priority list.
And she uses that urgency to demand specific action. She asks, what specific steps are being taken right now to expedite its recovery? She wants a plan, not just a vague promise.
And then she pivots to the financial side, again using their language. What is the airline's policy on interim compensation and reimbursement?
Not, are you going to pay for my stuff? It's a formal inquiry about official policy, which forces a formal policy-based answer. The agent has to confirm the rules about receipts and submission.
And her final move is just so savvy. She anticipates the communication black hole of the generic customer service number.
The 1-800 number to nowhere.
Exactly. She asks for a direct contact number for the local airport baggage team.
She's creating a direct channel to the people who can actually find her bag, bypassing the layers of bureaucracy. It's a brilliant move.
And you see the result. The agent responds to her competence with competence, gives her the PIR number, confirms the 48-hour window, details the courier delivery. She got high-level service because she communicated at a high level.
We have to acknowledge this is not easy. It's an incredibly frustrating situation.
Oh, it's infuriating.
But The key takeaway for you, the listener, is just so powerful. In those moments where your emotional intelligence is overwhelmed by stress, your linguistic intelligence has to take over.
The formal, precise language, PIR, expedite, reimbursement, that is your most powerful weapon. It cuts through bureaucracy and ensures your problem is taken seriously and handled efficiently. It turns a potential meltdown into a manageable problem.
You have to know the rules of their game to take control of the outcome. Okay. We've managed service and we've managed crisis. Now let's shift gears completely and talk about maximizing the intellectual joy of travel.
Right. We're moving from the logistical to the intellectual. Our last scenario is all about using language not to solve a problem, but to unlock the deeper story of a place.
This is about transforming yourself from a passive sightseer, just taking pictures and hearing dates, into an active participant in a historical or cultural discussion.
And the way to do that is by asking better questions.
The quality of the guide's answers is directly proportional to the quality of your questions. To get a profound response, you need to use vocabulary that shows you're curious and that you already have some base level of knowledge.
You're inviting them to go off script.
You're inviting them to be a fellow scholar, not just a fact reciter. Okay, let's build our vocabulary for insight. First word, provenance.
Provenance, it's such an elegant word.
It is. It refers to the origin or the detailed history of an object, where it came from, who owned it, how it got here. It could be an artifact, a painting, even a recipe.
But what's the difference in the answer you get?
Well, if you point to a statue and ask, what's its history? The guide will tell you the artist and the date it was carved.
Standard tour guide stuff.
Right. But if you ask about the provenance of the marble used for the statue, suddenly you're not talking about art anymore. You're talking about geology, ancient trade routes, economics, politics. It's a much bigger, richer question.
It opens up a whole new level of context. Okay, next.
A really important distinction in the world of heritage. Restoration versus preservation.
They sound similar, but they're not.
They are philosophically opposed in many ways. Restoration is about trying to return something to its original state. That often means adding new materials, rebuilding things, sometimes even guessing what was there.
And preservation.
Preservation is about stopping the clock. It's about keeping something in its current state, preventing any further decay, and respecting all the layers of history, even the damage.
So knowing that difference lets you ask a much smarter question about, say, an old castle.
Exactly. You can ask, was the decision to rebuild the main tower an act of restoration, or was the focus on preserving the ruin as it was? That shows you understand the deep philosophical debates that happen at every major heritage site.
Moving to architecture, you have a term I love. Vernacular architecture.
Yes. This is a wonderfully useful concept. It's the architecture of everyday life. The simple homes, the barns, the small shops built by local people using local materials and traditional methods.
So not the big, fancy cathedrals and palaces.
Exactly. The monumental architecture tells the story of the kings and bishops, of power and wealth. But the vernacular architecture tells the story of the ordinary people. It tells you about the climate, the local resources, how people actually lived.
So you can ask a guide to contrast the two to get a real socioeconomic history of a place.
You get the full picture. Next, a word to describe contrast. Juxtaposition.
Putting two different things side by side.
Right. The act of placing two contrasting things together to create an effect. So you don't just say, oh, there's an old building and a new building.
You'd say something like, I'm struck by the juxtaposition of the ancient Roman wall and the modern glass skyscraper built right up against it.
And that's no longer just an observation, it's an analytical comment. It invites a discussion about the city's history, its values, its approach to development.
And finally, a nice turn of phrase for asking a question.
A simple, elegant idiom. Could you shed some light on? It's just a more refined way of saying, can you explain this? But it implies you're looking for insight and interpretation, not just a simple fact.
It invites the guide to be an expert.
It does. Okay, so with this toolkit, let's go back to Alex, who is now on a walking tour.
And he immediately puts this vocabulary to work. He starts with an analytical observation about what he's seeing.
He doesn't just say cool buildings. He says, I'm particularly struck by the visual juxtaposition of the severe Gothic cathedral and the ornate, colorful Baroque townhouses. He uses juxtaposition perfectly.
And that sophisticated observation gets a sophisticated answer.
A fantastic answer. The guide explains it wasn't a plan, it was a historical accident. The stone cathedral survived a massive fire in 1688, but the old timber houses around it burned down, so they were rebuilt later in the style of that time, which was Baroque.
The juxtaposition is the scar of a historical trauma. What a great story.
A story he would never have heard without asking the right way. And then Alex shows he's really listening by applying the next concept.
Preservation versus restoration question.
Yes, he asks. So was the post-fire repair of the cathedral a conscious act of preservation? Or did it lean more toward restoration?
That's such a technical inside baseball question.
It is, and it signals to the guide that Alex is a serious participant. So the guide can now give a much more nuanced answer about how they preserved the lower walls but had to restore the upper parts. A level of detail reserved for people who actually care.
And he keeps going. He then points out the vernacular architecture of the smaller merchant houses on the side streets.
And that allows the guide to talk about social class, about the difference between the wealthy merchants on the main square and the cracksmen in the alleys.
But the real payoff question is about the tiles, the provenance question.
This is the mic drop moment. He notices a detail, the blue and white tiles on some houses, and asks, could you shed some light on the provenance of those tiles?
And the answer is just incredible.
It's amazing. The guide reveals the tiles aren't local at all. They're a legacy of 18th century maritime trade with Portugal. Wealthy ship owners brought them back as a status symbol to show off their global connections.
So that one word, provenance, unlocked a story about international trade, social status, and economic history, all from asking about some pretty blue tiles.
It's a completely different experience, and the most important part is the guide's reaction.
Yes, the guide explicitly says it's genuinely the questions like yours that make a tour truly rewarding.
It's reciprocal. Alex didn't just get a better tour, he gave the guide a better experience too. He turned a monologue into a dialogue.
What's so fascinating here is that the sophisticated vocabulary isn't about showing off, it's about connection.
It's an invitation. Deploying a richer, more specific vocabulary invites a deeper level of conversation, elevating the entire experience for everyone involved. He wasn't just a tourist, he became a partner in discovery.
So we've completed our deep dive into the advanced language of travel. We've seen how strategic communication can, well, navigate a check-in with real precision.
How it can manage a seriously stressful disruption with assertiveness and professionalism.
And how it can transform a simple tour into an exploration of history with genuine intellectual curiosity.
And I think these three scenarios together really show that achieving this kind of linguistic command is more than just a travel hack. It's a life skill.
It's about taking control of your environment.
Exactly. It's about solving problems efficiently and connecting with the world on a much more meaningful, much more intentional level than basic fluency ever could.
But knowing the theory is one thing, putting it into practice is another. The knowledge is just, dead weight if you don't use it.
So we have a challenge for you. A direct challenge to take these ideas and integrate them into your own travels.
Okay, what does this all mean for the listener right now?
We challenge you to actively use just one of these high-level terms on your next trip. Just one. Be the person who asks about the quiet aspect of a hotel room.
Or, if the worst happens, be the person who calmly asks to file a PIR.
Or be the person who asks about the provenance of a beautiful craft in a local market. Just try one.
And then notice what happens.
Yes. Notice the shift. Observe how that single precise word changes the quality of the service you get or the depth of the information you receive. It changes how you're seen and therefore how you're treated.
Language isn't just a tool for describing the world.
Not at all. It's a tool for transforming your experience of the world. It changes the interaction, which changes the outcome.
By focusing on how you ask, by applying that little bit of linguistic leverage, you don't just get an answer. You unlock a whole new layer of the story. You turn the world from a series of facts into a rich, complex narrative that you can actually navigate.
Which brings us to our final thought.
We'll leave you with this. If mastering the specific vocabulary of travel can unlock these complex global stories, what other simple, precise vocabulary shifts could unlock complexity and lead to better results in your daily life, in your job, or in your personal relationships?
Until next time, keep digging deeper. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. So, our mission today, it's a very specific one, highly leveraged, and I think intensely practical.
Mhm.
We are not here to talk about, the basic rules of business English, not the kind of language that just helps you avoid mistakes.
Right.
No, we are going much deeper. We're getting into the sophisticated application of language in the modern workplace.
The really high-level stuff.
Exactly. The precise discourse, the C2 level vocabulary, and, the rhetorical strategy that really defines leaders, the kind of thing that elevates careers and separates the people who just manage projects from the ones who inspire entire teams.
And that differentiation is it's everything, isn't it?
It is.
Our sources really underscore a critical point here. Professional communication, it's no longer a soft skill. It's a high-stakes discipline. It's about influence and diplomacy.
I think we often forget that.
We do.
Wow.
We assume that if our technical skills are solid, the delivery doesn't matter that much, but the data shows something completely different.
Which is what?
The how of your communication, that's what dictates your entire professional trajectory. It affects your velocity, your ceiling, just as much as the raw information you're trying to convey, maybe even more sometimes.
That shift in perspective is, I find, fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
It moves the entire idea of workplace language from just getting a message across
Right.
to outright competitive strategy. We're looking for that specific linguistic edge that can turn potential into actual performance.
Exactly.
So what are the key battlefields we're dissecting today? What are the scenarios where this kind of language mastery really gives you the greatest return?
We've isolated three scenarios that are exceptionally common, but also incredibly challenging. High-stakes situations that each require a very tailored linguistic toolkit.
Okay.
First, and maybe the most difficult one, we are tackling the art of constructive dissent. So navigating those critical team decisions and, voicing necessary objections without damaging collaboration. Or, worse, being labeled as negative.
That's where careers can genuinely get stuck, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you stop a bad idea without, getting fired for being the person who always says no?
Precisely. It's an act of linguistic tightrope walking. It truly is.
Okay, what's the second one?
Second, we're shifting our focus externally. We're going to master this subtle but very complex dance of a professional networking event, where the goal is really about establishing these high-value relationships and doing it efficiently and respectfully.
The ultimate low-friction transfer of information.
That's a great way to put it.
Turning a 2-minute intro into a real, actionable, and, mutually beneficial connection.
And then finally, the third one, we're going to analyze what might be the most sensitive internal conversation of all.
The performance review?
The formal performance review. How to handle it with grace, but also with strategic foresight. How you can effectively turn criticism into a concrete plan for your long-term career advancement.
Okay, let's unpack all of this with the level of detail it demands. Our commitment to you, the listener, is not just to define these terms, but to really analyze them in context.
Right, in action.
Exactly. By the end of this deep dive, you should be equipped with the linguistic strategies you need for command. We're moving beyond just clarity. We're aiming straight for high-level professional influence.
Let's do it.
Let's log in and get started. So we are launching straight into the conference room. This is where the risk is highest.
It really is.
The team has reached consensus. The manager is, ready to sign off on a major initiative. But you see a flaw, a fundamental, maybe even catastrophic flaw.
Yeah.
Before you even open your mouth, you need to arm yourself with language that signals strategic thinking, not just, personal opposition.
And this is such a critical distinction. In these high-stakes environments, the words you choose have to separate you, the speaker, from the idea you're critiquing.
That's a really interesting way to put it.
You have to shift the focus. It can't be a personal disagreement. It has to be an objective strategic analysis of risk. This is the lexicon of a leader who is trying to protect the project, not just oppose an idea.
Okay, so let's start with that fundamental tool. The one that almost gives you permission to be skeptical, to play devil's advocate.
Yes. This idiom is, it's a powerful linguistic shield. It really is, because it manages the expectations of everyone in the room before you even start.
How so?
Well, when you begin a critique with, may I play devil's advocate for a moment, you're explicitly announcing something. You're saying that the points you're about to raise are for the sake of thoroughness.
Right.
Not because they represent your genuine, deeply held opposition. You're positioning yourself as a helpful contributor who is just, testing the plan's resilience, making sure every vulnerability has been exposed and addressed.
But I have to ask, In an age where meetings are already so long, isn't that phrase a little bit of a cliche?
It can be.
Could using it too often actually make the speaker seem, I don't know, tiresome or overly negative, even if they claim they're not?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
And yes, it is absolutely a high leverage move, which means, like all such moves, it requires judgment.
Oh.
If you use it every single time a new idea comes up, it loses all its power. It just signals that you might be, argumentative by nature.
So you have to pick your moment.
You have to pick your moments. But when it's deployed strategically, let's say when the room is experiencing obvious groupthink, or when the stakes of the decision are genuinely high, it serves a crucial psychological function. It frames your skepticism as a fiduciary responsibility.
A what?
A fiduciary responsibility. It's like you're saying, I respect this team and this project enough to challenge it to ensure our success. It reframes dissent as meticulous due diligence.
I like that. Moving from a negative critique to due diligence. That's the strategic benefit right there.
Exactly.
Okay, next, let's tackle a term that has become, it's indispensable in any kind of resource management discussion: bandwidth.
Right. And in a professional context, we need to be absolutely clear what this means. Bandwidth is purely about capacity.
Not internet speed.
No, not at all. It's a person's or a team's measured ability to absorb and effectively execute additional work, additional projects within their existing resources and timelines. It's a technical term that applies objectivity to discussions about workload.
But why is that better than just saying we're too busy?
Because we're too busy is subjective.
Right.
It sounds defensive,
Yeah.
and it's usually interpreted as a failure of prioritization on your part,
Yeah.
or even just a personal complaint.
I see.
But using bandwidth, that's objective. It's structural. When you ask, do we realistically have the bandwidth to onboard this new initiative right now, given the Q3 deliverables?
Yeah.
You're not complaining. You are asking a resource management question.
And that forces the manager to...
It forces the manager to engage in a high-level discussion about resource allocation, about prioritization, about existing commitments. It elevates you, the speaker, to the role of a strategic resource analyst. You're communicating based on capacity metrics, not on feelings.
And if that capacity is lacking, well, then you have to question the entire proposal's viability.
You do.
Which means we need to assess the feasibility of any proposed plan.
Feasibility is the foundation of any serious project assessment. It's just the practicality or the possibility of successful completion. And it's measured against tangible constraints, right? Time, budget, resources.
So when you question the feasibility of a project...
You are requesting objective data. You're moving the discussion away from, I like this idea, and toward, does the data actually support its execution?
Our sources even mention the more formal assessment, the feasibility study. What does using that phrase, even just as a casual reference, signal to the team?
It signals maturity and prudence. When you say something like, before we proceed, maybe we should assess the feasibility of scaling this across all 5 regions, you're demanding a procedural check, often a financial one.
You're forcing them to ground the plan in reality.
In engineering reality, in budgetary reality. It's a crucial check, especially when, as you know often happens, enthusiasm and creative momentum are running way ahead of practical execution. It's the language of risk mitigation.
Okay, so if that feasibility is clearly in doubt, we need a diplomatic tool to express our objections without creating, an adversarial environment. That leads us to using the word reservations.
Yes, reservations is the definitive diplomatic tool for signaling doubt or disagreement. It's brilliant. If you say, I have some serious reservations about the proposed timeline, you are conveying a multi-layered message.
Okay, what are the layers?
1, you're signaling that you recognize the overall merit of the core idea.
So you're not rejecting it outright.
Exactly. And 2, you're saying that you have specific, weighty concerns that have to be addressed before you can fully commit.
How does that differ psychologically from just saying, I disagree with the timeline?
I disagree creates an immediate winner-loser dynamic. You are positioned against the other speaker or against the proposal. It's confrontational.
Right.
Reservations, on the other hand, implies that you are already mostly aligned, but you just require some clarification or modification on specific points. It's far softer, more mature, more professional than outright opposition. It implies you want to solve the issue and move forward together, not just veto the proposal.
Okay, finally, what if the strategy isn't just flawed, but it fundamentally needs a complete change of direction?
Then you must be ready to pivot.
A term from the startup world.
Borrowed from the high-velocity startup world, yes. and it signifies making a fundamental necessary change in direction when a strategy is demonstrably failing or, hits some insurmountable obstacle. It's the ultimate action-oriented verb of agility.
And importantly, it avoids the word fail.
It totally avoids the word fail.
Yeah. So instead of admitting our initial strategy failed, we say, we need to pivot. Why is that linguistic framing so powerful in a corporate setting?
Because failure implies a dead end. It requires someone to be blamed.
Right.
A pivot, however, implies strategic agility. It implies an informed course correction based on new data or unforeseen obstacles. It signals that you're not attached to the initial execution method, and it refocuses the entire team on the ultimate objective. It shows you're adaptable, focused on efficiency, and willing to embrace change, which is a powerful leadership trait.
Okay, so with this lexicon established, let's see these words in action. Our sources give us a perfect case study. It features Priya, a senior analyst who needs to dissent when her team is just rushing toward consensus on this aggressive alpha marketing strategy, and they're about to finalize a huge budget.
Yes, and Priya's approach is, it's just so structured and deliberate. It's highly effective. We need to pay really close attention to the sequential nature of her intervention.
The sequence matters.
It's everything. She waits until the manager is about to close the discussion. That's the point of maximum pressure. And she chooses her entry point with absolute precision.
So her first strategy, the entry point, she deploys that linguistic shield we just talked about. She says, "Excuse me, Mark, before we commit, may I play devil's advocate for a moment?" Let's talk about the instant psychological impact of those words.
The instant impact is the preemptive neutralization of hostility.
Wow.
The entire room gets a subtle signal. Do not view me as hostile, view me as meticulous. She has framed her upcoming points as intellectual contributions designed to stress test the proposal, not to sabotage it.
And if she'd started differently?
If she had started with, "I disagree with this," the manager, the whole team, they would have immediately shifted into a defensive posture.
Right.
By using the idiom, Priya forces them to listen analytically, not defensively. She elevates her entire intervention to the level of strategic risk analysis. It's just brilliant.
That strategic framing is then immediately followed by Priya's strategy 2, validation first. She actually says, "I fully support the creative direction," before she introduces her reservations.
Yes.
Why spend that valuable time validating the existing idea?
This is emotional diplomacy at its absolute finest. By affirming support for the creative direction, she communicates that her issue is a technical and logistical one. It's not philosophical. It's not competitive.
I see.
In fact, her support for the creative part makes her tactical criticism of the timeline feel even more responsible. The message it sends is, "I want this project to succeed so badly that I am compelled to point out this obstacle in the road."
So it ensures that when she introduces her serious reservations about the proposed timeline,
those reservations are received as helpful input, not as an attempt to derail the meeting or, challenge someone's authority.
Okay. So once she has secured that diplomatic footing, she shifts to Priya's strategy 3, data-driven focus. She avoids phrases like, "I feel nervous about this," or "I think this is too aggressive."
She grounds her entire argument in objective external reality. Her concern is specifically the proposed timeline, and she immediately links it to the parallel product launch that is also scheduled for Q3.
So she's connecting the dots for them.
She is. And she says she has run some preliminary numbers based on the Q3 resource allocation matrix. This is the language of fact, not opinion.
And she cites lack of bandwidth and questionable feasibility of the aggressive Q3 targets, arguing that achieving them would require unbudgeted external resources or, unavoidable overtime.
This is such a high leverage move. She has completely shifted the discussion from her personal feelings to the structural limitations of the organization.
Right.
By focusing on bandwidth and feasibility, she is forcing the manager and the budget owner to reconcile the aggressive timeline with the actual resources they have. She's essentially saying this plan is logically inconsistent with our existing commitments.
And the risks she cites.
The strategic risks she cites, team burnout, and a subpar campaign launch, that is an extremely effective strategic warning. It appeals directly to the manager's ultimate responsibility: resource retention and quality control. She has converted her objection into a quantified strategic warning.
But the truly effective dissent doesn't just critique. It provides a path forward. She immediately engages Priya's strategy 4, proactive solution. the pivot. She doesn't just say stop. She offers a concrete alternative.
This is the fundamental rule of professional leadership. You must always offer a superior yes when you're delivering a no.
I like that. A superior yes.
He proposes a slight pivot. That word pivot is so crucial. It signals flexibility and a course correction, not abandonment. And her alternative is a targeted pilot program in a single high-leverage region.
So how does she frame this alternative as a lower risk, higher reward option?
She justifies it with data strategy. A pilot program allows them to gather critical data, refine the messaging, and pressure test the strategy at a minimal cost and with a minimal risk footprint. And crucially, this can happen now, which frees up the team for the full, refined launch in Q4, when she confirms more organizational bandwidth will be naturally available.
So the risk is minimized.
Minimized, because the full budget isn't committed prematurely. And the reward is maximized, because the final mass market campaign will be based on verified, real-world data, not just assumptions. It's pragmatic, it's phased, and it's financially responsible.
And the key outcome here really validates this entire approach. The manager accepts her alternative. He says, a phased rollout, that's an interesting alternative. And he tasks Priya to create the brief for the pilot review.
And that is the definitive measure of successful constructive dissent.
It is.
Priya didn't just win an argument. She increased her perceived value and her responsibility. She moved from analyst to strategic indispensable advisor. She gained ownership of the next crucial step. She successfully steered the project away from a high-risk path while simultaneously improving her own professional standing. It just confirms that the most powerful form of dissent is always solution-oriented and proactively strategic.
Okay, so moving from the internal dynamics of the meeting room to the external high-velocity environment of an industry event.
A totally different world.
The challenge here is fundamentally different, isn't it? It's not about resource allocation. It's about making a high-impact, low-friction entry into a stranger's orbit and, quickly establishing a reason for a relationship to even exist.
Exactly. We have to shift our lexicon from process management to relationship potential. In networking, time is the absolute scarcest resource. Your goal is to move past those superficial exchanges and establish immediate relevance and respect that justifies the next interaction. We need the vocabulary that conveys efficiency and collaboration.
So let's start with that key collaborative verb for external relations, to liaise.
Yes, to liaise. It means to establish a working channel or a relationship in order to cooperate on a matter of mutual concern. It's a formal, serious, and proactive term. It implies structural collaboration, not just a friendly connection.
So when you say, I'd like to liaise with your R&D department to understand the feasibility of integrating our systems,
you are proposing a formal, cooperative structure.
And that's so much more effective than just saying, let's get our teams to chat.
Oh, far more effective. To liaise signals mutual intent and a seriousness about coordinated effort. It sets the stage for mutual benefit, rather than the implied one-sided gain of a casual request. It communicates that you view the relationship as a serious professional endeavor, respecting their expertise and their time.
Okay. Next, if you're meeting someone highly senior, you need to quickly figure out their area of influence. That brings us to remit.
Remit is a beautiful, specific term. It's often favored in more formal corporate environments, and it denotes the exact scope of responsibility or authority someone has. Asking, what is your primary remit within the strategic partnerships division, is an incredibly efficient way to cut through vague titles and quickly ascertain the core functions and the decision-making power they actually hold.
And why is that question superior to the standard small talk opener? So what do you do?
What do you do invites a generic, often boilerplate description of their job. Asking about their remit instantly elevates the conversation to a strategic level. It shows you recognize that their role is complex and that you are looking for specific areas where your interests might intersect.
It signals respect.
It signals respect for their seniority, and it minimizes wasted conversational time. It moves the conversation immediately to strategic fit.
While that professional focus is critical, we can't forget that all great professional relationships are still built on shared interest.
They are.
We have to find common ground.
Absolutely. And common ground isn't just about discovering you both went to the same university.
Right.
In a professional context, it is the mutual shared challenge or the fascinating idea that forms the basis for genuine rapport that extends beyond just job titles. It's the intellectual anchor of the conversation.
It's what makes the conversation stick.
Exactly. Finding common ground moves the conversation from a purely transactional exchange, what can you do for me, to A genuinely collaborative intellectual engagement. How can we solve this shared problem better together?
And when that common ground is established, the linguistic justification for continuing the relationship is found in synergy.
Synergy. A bit of a buzzword, maybe, but powerful when used correctly. It's the concept that the combined effect of working together is mathematically greater than the sum of the individual effects.
1 + 1 = 3.
1 + 1 = 3. It's the rhetorical and economic justification for a partnership. When you tell someone, I see a potential synergy between your pioneering research in AI governance and our product's application layer, you are making a very powerful value proposition.
You're articulating clearly and concisely why this relationship should exist.
Yes, because together you will create exponential value that neither of you could achieve in isolation.
Okay, so the ultimate failure of a networking conversation is that vague, low-commitment promise at the end.
The dreaded, let's connect.
Exactly. To avoid this, we have to ensure we secure an actionable follow-up.
An actionable follow-up is suggesting a concrete, specific, and low-friction next step rather than that nebulous promise to connect later. It signals competence, organization, and respect for the other person's time.
So instead of saying, I'll email you,
You propose, I will send you a one-page summary tomorrow morning outlining 3 specific areas where we see potential synergy. That low-friction commitment ensures the momentum of the connection is maintained, and it places the burden of effort on you, the initiator, not on the person you're trying to impress.
let's put this lexicon to the test. Well, AOSLA's David Chen. He's a strategy director at a startup, and he's approaching a keynote speaker, Dr. Evans, after her presentation at a crowded industry event.
And he has maybe 90 seconds to secure a future meeting.
Yeah.
The pressure is on.
Okay, let's break it down.
David's interaction is a perfect encapsulation of brevity, respect, and high-impact communication. His objective is to leave Dr. Evans with a single clear thought. This is a serious person whose request is worth my time.
And David's strategy 1. The specific compliment is his opening. He completely bypasses generic flattery and references a precise detail. He says, Dr. Evans, I was particularly struck by your point on data decentralization and its implications for compliance architecture.
This is a psychological masterstroke. It really is. The specific compliment is proof of engagement. You cannot fake it.
Right.
By referencing a specific complex point, David instantly establishes himself as an intellectual peer who was truly listening, not just waiting for an opportunity to push his business card at her. This immediate intellectual validation justifies the rest of his approach and makes her far more receptive. It signals, I value your specific expertise.
He immediately follows that up with David's strategy 2, establishing relevance and common ground. He links her academic topic to his commercial reality. He runs a fintech startup that's grappling with that exact decentralization issue.
This is the bridge-building moment. He quickly defines his remit developing long-term tech strategy, which immediately tells Dr. Evans that he's a decision-maker with a strategic lens.
It's efficient.
Very efficient. By linking her research topic to his company's practical struggles, he creates instant common ground, a mutual intellectual struggle. This avoids him having to spend 5 minutes explaining who he is and what his company does. He moves straight to a collaborative, problem-solving mindset. He has successfully created relevance in about 10 seconds.
And he solidifies that relevance by introducing the potential for synergy between her research and his product's value proposition. So he's defining the why of their future relationship right there on the spot.
Absolutely. He is articulating the value exchange. I see a potential synergy is the high-level way of saying your intellectual capital combined with our commercial agility could result in a breakthrough. He makes the follow-up meeting seem like a mutually beneficial exchange of ideas, which justifies the investment of her time. He's not just asking for help, he's offering potential validation for her work in the commercial sphere.
Okay, now for the most delicate move. David's strategy 3, the low-friction ask. He's requesting time, which is her most precious commodity.
And this is where David demonstrates supreme respect for her scarcity. He starts by acknowledging she is inundated with requests.
Ah, that's smart.
It shows empathy and a bit of subtle flattery, which lowers her defenses. Then he requests a specific short amount of time, just 15 minutes.
Wait, if the potential synergy is so high, why only 15 minutes? Why wouldn't he try to maximize that and ask for 30 or even 60?
That's precisely the strategic genius of the low-friction ask.
Okay.
Asking for 60 minutes creates a huge cognitive burden. It requires her to block out an hour, to prepare, maybe even to travel. But asking for just 15 minutes and framing it as a request to pick your brain, which implies a high-level, low-preparation discussion, makes the commitment seem minimal and highly manageable.
It's an easy yes.
It's a very easy yes. It's an extremely high return request for a minimal investment of her time, which significantly increases the likelihood of her accepting. He just needs to get the meeting. He can trust that the value generated in those 15 minutes will organically lead to a longer follow-up later.
The close is equally strong. David's strategy 4, the professional close, actionable follow-up. Dr. Evans suggests have your assistant liaise with mine, but David takes immediate ownership of the next step.
This is so crucial for maintaining momentum. David agrees to the high-level liaison, but he insists on handling the immediate next step himself. He promises a concise, one-page brief on his platform the next morning.
Why is that one-page brief the ultimate signal of efficiency?
Because it prepares her for the meeting. The brief provides context, allowing her to understand his core challenge before they even speak.
So he's respecting her time even before the meeting happens.
Exactly. It signals that David is serious, he's organized, and he will not waste those precious 15 minutes on basic introductions. It confirms that he views the entire interaction as a high-value, high-efficiency engagement. This is the difference between just making a successful contact and actually initiating a meaningful, productive, professional relationship.
All right, let's turn now to our final and I think maybe the most internally delicate scenario, the formal performance review. This conversation isn't just a record of your past performance. It is the single most important document defining your future career trajectory. Your language has to be diplomatic, forward-looking, and demonstrate an absolute focus on growth.
This environment demands the highest level of linguistic and emotional maturity. It really does. The truth is, how an employee responds to constructive criticism often weighs more heavily on their long-term prospects than the criticism itself.
That's a huge point.
It is. The goal isn't to defend the past. It's to strategically leverage the feedback to plan the future.
Okay, so let's prepare for this discussion with the lexicon of receptiveness, starting with a baseline term, constructive feedback.
Right. Constructive feedback is the standard professional framing for helpful criticism that's intended specifically to promote improvement. When a manager delivers criticism using this frame, they're indicating that their intention is supportive and developmental.
So you mirror that language.
An astute employee always mirrors this language. It signals that you view the input not as a complaint, but as a roadmap for your own professional development. It keeps the dialogue focused squarely on solutions and growth.
And once that feedback is given, we need a phrase that signals not just that you heard the words, but a genuine commitment to processing them. That brings us to take it on board.
To take it on board, it's a foundational idiom, especially prevalent in UK and Commonwealth corporate settings, and it means you have fully heard, understood, internalized, and agreed to consider the point in your future actions. It is a formal and powerful signal of complete, non-defensive open-mindedness.
What's wrong with just saying, I understand?
I understand is a low-commitment phrase. It just acknowledges reception of the sound waves.
Right.
When an employee says, I will fully take that on board, they are assuring the manager that the feedback has been accepted as valid and will actively influence their future behavior and prioritization. It's a linguistic commitment to behavioral change. It implies a much deeper level of commitment than simple intellectual comprehension.
And since we want to focus on high efficiency results, we need to ensure that the feedback we receive is actionable.
Actionable is the essential metric for quality feedback. It describes criticism that provides clear examples or concrete steps for what to do differently.
So vague feedback is useless.
Vague subjective criticism, like you need to show more initiative, is nearly useless. Actionable feedback, however, provides a clear path forward, like next quarter, show initiative by proposing 3 solutions before bringing me a problem. See the difference?
Yeah, that's crystal clear. So an astute employee should specifically ask their manager to make the feedback actionable.
Absolutely. Asking, could you provide a specific actionable example of what that looks like in practice is an incredibly powerful move.
Why?
It demonstrates a genuine interest in measurable growth and improvement, but it also strategically shifts the responsibility for providing clear metrics back onto the manager. It protects you from vague future complaints by demanding measurable criteria for success.
Okay, when the path forward involves formal training, we call it professional development.
Right. Professional development covers any dedicated training, courses, mentorship, anything aimed at closing a skill gap and enhancing career potential. This term is crucial because it reframes a deficiency as a necessary investment opportunity for the company.
Ah, I see that.
By asking about internal workshops or courses for your professional development, You tune the criticism into a proactive request for resources. You're showcasing your initiative and your commitment to acquiring senior skills.
And finally, the strategic focus that must underpin every part of this review, your career trajectory.
The career trajectory. It's the long-term, forward-looking path that your career is likely to take within the organization. When this term comes up, the conversation elevates beyond just the immediate quarter's performance.
It's bigger picture.
Much bigger. It can have short-term improvements, like addressing a specific weakness, to the realization of long-term senior potential. Confirms that the manager views you as a high-potential asset who is worthy of long-term strategic planning.
Okay, let's look at the scenario. Manager Mark praises Sarah's exemplary project management, specifically the Odyssey project, which was ahead of schedule and under budget. A huge win.
A huge win.
He then introduces the area for improvement, client-facing communication, noting she is sometimes overly technical.
And this is the critical moment. Sarah's immediate response to this constructive feedback. This is the moment where emotional maturity is tested and, well, she passes with flying colors.
She begins with Sarah's strategy 1, immediate acceptance. She immediately shows appreciation. She says, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. That's very helpful context.
This non-defensive stance is paramount. Absolutely paramount. Any attempt at defensive justification like, well, the client asked for that data, or I was just trying to be thorough, would instantly undermine her credibility and professionalism.
You can't argue.
You can't argue. By immediately validating the manager's input, she frames the criticism as collaborative guidance from a trusted mentor, not a punitive attack. She demonstrates emotional control, and she ensures the discussion remains focused on future improvement, not past disputes.
She immediately moves to Sarah's strategy 2, making the feedback actionable. She asks for a specific example to ensure she can fully take it on board.
This is so sophisticated. She doesn't just accept, she seeks precision. And the manager provides the detail. In the Q2 review with the Sterling Group, she focused on back-end code when the client urgently needed a top-line summary of performance metrics.
So the issue is tailoring the message to the audience.
That's the core issue. And by asking for that specific example, she has extracted the necessary detail to make the feedback tangible. Crucially, by using that phrase, fully take it on board, she signals deep commitment while simultaneously ensuring the feedback is precise enough to allow for measurable change.
So having defined the problem clearly and committed to resolving it, she executes Sarah's strategy 3, proactive planning. She turns the conversation instantly forward, taking ownership of the solution.
This move is just essential for demonstrating initiative and high-level maturity. She doesn't wait for Mark to suggest training. She immediately asks about internal workshops or courses on advanced presentation skills or public speaking for her professional development.
Wow.
She has identified the skill gap audience tailoring and instantly presented a solution that requires company investment. This transforms a moment of potential weakness into an opportunity for strategic investment.
It effectively reframes the criticism from Sarah has a weakness to Sarah recognizes a necessary senior skill gap and has a plan to close it.
Precisely. This proactive approach showcases her ambition, her commitment to continuous learning, and her problem-solving skills, which are far more valuable traits in a senior role than a single technical presentation lapse. She has dictated the terms of the remediation plan. She's in control.
And the key outcome here confirms the ultimate success of her strategy. Mark agrees to nominate her for the advanced presentation course. But crucially, he reinforces his positive view of her potential by mentioning her career trajectory moving toward a director role.
And this is the definitive win. By handling the constructive feedback so gracefully, so proactively, and so strategically, Sarah achieved 2 goals. 1, she secured tangible resources for her development, the course. And 2, she reinforced her manager's belief in her senior potential. The manager connected the immediate training to her long-term director trajectory, confirming that she successfully leveraged a critical moment into an accelerating opportunity. She leaves that review having turned a necessary moment of critique into a confirmation of her high potential status. It's just perfectly executed.
So this whole deep dive has really confirmed that sophisticated professional communication, it's not a set of polite habits. It's a critical strategic discipline. It's designed to maximize influence and minimize risk at every single level of interaction.
Absolutely. We analyzed 3 unique high-stakes scenarios: managing internal dissent, building external relationships, receiving criticism, and discovered that success really hinges on choosing the right words at the right time for the maximum psychological effect.
If we synthesize what we've learned across all three of these scenarios, I think we can distill the learning down to three core pillars of advanced professional discourse that any high-potential professional really has to adopt.
The first pillar is preparation, vocab. It's just knowing and deploying specific high-leverage terms that signal strategic thinking, not just personal emotion.
Right.
We saw this with terms like bandwidth, which converts personal overload into an objective resource allocation issue, and synergy, which justifies collaboration by articulating that mutual compounded value creation. So we view this lexicon as, well, it's speaking the language of leadership.
The second pillar then is diplomacy, meeting review. This involves using that softening strategic language to preserve relationships and reduce friction, even when you're delivering or receiving difficult messages.
We saw the protective power of playing devil's advocate, right? To frame dissent as a helpful contribution. And the linguistic commitment of take it on board to signal immediate non-defensive acceptance of criticism. This diplomacy ensures that your strategic message is actually received and acted upon, rather than being rejected because of unnecessary friction or, perceived aggression.
And the final pillar, one that dictates success in every single scenario, efficiency, networking review. The focus must always be on concrete, measurable, and tangible outcomes.
And this means using actionable language consistently, whether it's David promising an actionable follow-up to minimize Dr. Evans's prep work, or Sarah demanding actionable feedback to ensure her growth plan is measurable. Efficiency signals respect for time. It converts potential energy into kinetic, productive results. It's the hallmark of the truly organized, strategic, and ambitious professional.
The sophistication isn't just in knowing the words, is it? It's in understanding the psychological and strategic context of when and how to deploy them for maximum effect. This is the difference between simply participating in the professional world and actively shaping your own professional trajectory.
And this brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. We have analyzed three high-stakes scenarios: internal dissent with Priya, external relationship building with David, and receiving constructive criticism with Sarah.
So based on your current professional landscape, where are you most often inhibited? Which of these three situations presents the single greatest opportunity for you to intentionally deploy this kind of high-leverage language and reshape your professional perception in the next month?
We challenge you to identify that one critical conversation, the next big meeting, the next networking opportunity, or the next piece of feedback you're due to receive, and intentionally plan one strategic piece of communication using the lexicon and the diplomatic strategies we discussed today. Don't rely on instinct or familiarity, rely on strategy.
Keep communicating, keep climbing, and keep refining that professional voice. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time. Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're probably not just looking for, a list of vocabulary. You're looking for strategy.
Exactly.
For weeks now, we've been charting the more functional waters of communication, things like the language of commerce or the precision you need in professional interactions.
All incredibly useful stuff.
Absolutely. But today, we're pivoting. We're going into what might be the most challenging, the most nuanced, and I think ultimately the most rewarding domain of all.
And that is social and personal communication.
Yes.
This really is the Everest of fluency, isn't it? Because moving beyond that kind of transactional English it's essential. This is where language stops being just a mechanism for getting tasks done.
Right.
And it starts being the very vehicle for human connection. Mm-hmm. When you're operating at a high level, what we might call C2 competence, the hurdles aren't really grammatical anymore.
No, you've got that down.
You've got that down. The challenges are in emotional intelligence, they're in timing, and they're definitely in linguistic subtlety.
Subtlety that's the perfect term. We all know this intuitively, right? In our personal relationships, the right sentence, delivered with the right intent, it can forge such deep trust.
Mm-hmm.
But the wrong sentence, and it could be grammatically perfect, it could be well-intentioned, but if it lands wrong, it can create instant distance.
Or friction, or even lasting offense. And that's the tightrope we're all walking.
So our mission for you today, for you listening, is to really analyze the strategic architecture of these personal dialogues.
You want you to internalize communication strategies that let you connect, that let you empathize, and build genuine rapport on a much deeper, more meaningful level.
We're aiming for authenticity over just correctness.
And impact over mere politeness. That's a key distinction.
Definitely. The sources we've pulled from today are from a pretty advanced communication study. It really dissects real real-world dialogues.
Yeah, and it focuses specifically on the pragmatic strategies, the how-to required for these high-stakes human interactions.
So we're going to pull apart 3 challenging personal scenarios. First, how do you address a sensitive issue with a friend tactfully?
The big one.
The big one. Second, how to offer sincere condolences and genuine support when someone is grieving.
So tough to get right.
And finally, something we all face, the delicate art of gracefully declining a social invitation without, damaging the relationship.
Okay, so prepare yourself to look under the hood of human interaction. We're not just examining the words, but the strategic intent behind every single choice.
Let's start with maybe the most daunting task of all, bringing up something difficult with someone you care about. The challenge here is it's immense. You have some piece of information that needs to be shared, maybe a behavioral observation, a potential problem.
Something's not right.
Something's not right. But the moment you introduce that information, the person you're talking to is likely to just raise their shield.
That defensive posture.
Yeah. And once that happens, the conversation is basically over before it's even begun.
It really is. It's the linguistic equivalent of, trying to perform surgery while the patient is awake and actively fighting you. It's just not going to work.
What a great analogy.
The language we choose, it has to immediately frame the intervention as caring, as supportive, and focused on the health of the relationship.
Not as a critique of the person.
Never as a critique of the person.
Yeah.
If your opening line sounds like an accusation, you've already failed. The game is over.
Okay, so let's unpack the specific C2 vocabulary that helps us navigate this initial minefield. These 5 phrases are, from what I understand, designed to disarm the listener and establish an alliance from the get-go.
That's the goal. Disarm and align.
Let's start with the opening move itself, the action of actually bringing the subject to the floor, to broach.
Right. So to broach means, very specifically, to raise a sensitive or difficult subject for discussion. The word itself carries this heavy connotation of respect and delicacy.
So it's not just to raise a topic, it's got more weight.
It has so much more weight. Think of it this way. When you use the word broach, you are actively acknowledging that the subject matter is weighted, that it's maybe uncomfortable, and that you're approaching it with caution.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, if you just said, hey, I need to talk to you about your attitude.
Oof. Yeah, sounds confrontational.
Instantly. But if you say, look, there is something a little sensitive I need to broach with you, you're signaling respect for their comfort level. And that is immediately disarming.
I wonder, though, and I'm thinking about my own friendships, is there a risk of broach sounding a little too formal? If I'm just talking to a close friend over coffee, does it sound too stiff, like corporate language?
That's a really valid, critical question.
Yeah.
And the answer is, it can. Context is everything. In a highly casual setting, you might use a slight variation.
Like what?
Perhaps something like, I need to gently broach something. Or even, I want to try and broach this topic, but please know I'm choosing my words carefully here. You're sort of flagging the word itself.
So you're acknowledging the formality.
You're acknowledging it. But the formality of broach also serves a strategic function. It elevates the conversation beyond just routine chatter. It signals that serious, respectful, emotional work is about to happen.
So its slight formality is actually what lends it gravity and caution at the same time.
You got it. That's the balance it strikes.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, moving on. We need a phrase that describes the impact of this person's difficult behavior on the environment around them. The phrase is, to walk on eggshells.
This is a superb idiom for these situations. It's an absolutely perfect visual. If you are walking on eggshells, it means you're being extremely careful, nervous, maybe tentative about what you say or do.
Because you don't want to set them off.
Exactly. Because the person you're interacting with is easily upset or reactive or volatile. But here's the crucial part. When you use this phrase, you're describing the environment their behavior creates.
So you're talking about the tension, the strain.
The tension, the strain, the fear of upsetting them. You're making the issue about the situation they've caused, not a direct moral judgment on their character.
So it shifts the focus from, say, you are an abrasive person, to your recent behavior has made the entire group feel like we're a bit uneasy. It externalizes the problem.
Precisely. And that's the key.
Yeah.
It allows them to understand the consequences of their actions without feeling the deep shame of a character assassination. It gives them an out.
Right, because they can address the situation without having to defend their entire personality. Okay, now, probably the most important phrase for preempting that defensiveness we talked about. Defining your intent with from a place of concern.
This is the strategic declaration of intent. You absolutely must state explicitly that your intervention is coming from a place of concern.
It seems so simple.
It is, but it's powerful. By doing this, you instantly frame the entire conversation as caring and supportive, not accusatory. You are defining your role as an ally from the very beginning.
And the sources we looked at, they actually had data on this, right?
They did. The analysis showed that listeners who hear this phrase, this is coming from a place of concern, they immediately drop their core defenses by about 40%.
Wow, 40%.
It's a huge number. And it's because they understand the speaker isn't looking for a fight. They're looking to help.
Okay, so let me push back again, like I did with Broach. Could, from a place of concern, also sound a little condescending. A bit like a manager addressing a subordinate or a therapist.
It absolutely runs that risk if the tone is wrong.
Right, the delivery.
100%. If it sounds clinical or overly professional, it will backfire. That's why C2 competence isn't just about the words you choose. It's about how you deliver them.
So how do you mitigate that risk?
You have to pair it with genuine relational language. You can't just drop it in there cold. You add something like, because I value you so much, or as your friend, I feel like I need to share this purely from a place of concern.
So you embed it in warmth.
You embed it in clear relational warmth. That's when it works.
Noted. Okay, next up, a gentle way to talk about the person's actual state. Out of sorts.
This is a beautiful, compassionate phrase. Really, it's a gift. If someone is out of sorts, it just means they're not their usual self. They might be irritable or moody or maybe a little unwell.
It's not a heavy diagnosis.
Not at all. It's a highly empathetic idiom because it provides an immediate, kind explanation for difficult behavior. By suggesting they're simply out of sorts, you're implying that the negative behavior is an anomaly.
A temporary deviation?
A temporary deviation, exactly. It's not a permanent part of their personality.
Yeah.
You're validating that the real them is good, and this is just a blip.
And finally, the aspirational goal of the entire exchange. The shared objective you're both working towards, to clear the air.
Yes. To clear the air means to resolve tensions or misunderstandings or just lingering awkwardness by talking about them openly.
So it's about the future.
It is. It signifies that the conversation's purpose is restoration and mutual clarity. It frames the discussion as a cooperative effort toward a more harmonious future, rather than just a unilateral imposition of judgment. It says, let's fix this together.
Okay, with that toolkit ready, let's dissect the dialogue from our source. It's between two friends, Maria and Liam. And the situation is that Liam had been making some cutting remarks and causing tension in their friend group.
And Maria's strategic opening established every necessary psychological precondition for success. It's a masterclass.
So she didn't ambush him.
No, absolutely not. She chose a private moment, which is key. And she said, Liam, there's something I've been meaning to broach with you, and I hope you know it's coming from a place of genuine concern.
Wow. That opening sentence is just... It's a masterpiece of pragmatic communication.
It really is.
It signals respect for the difficulty with broach.
Yep.
And it guarantees friendly intent with genuine concern. So how did she then transition from that perfect opening to the actual problem?
She did it by avoiding sweeping generalizations, which are always very easy to refute.
Right. If you say, you're always so negative, they'll just find one example of when they weren't.
Exactly. Instead, she used specific, gentle, undeniable evidence. She didn't say, you've been a jerk lately.
Which would have ended the conversation right there.
Instantly. She said, at Chloe's party last week, and maybe a couple of times since, you made a few comments that were quite cutting.
So by referencing a specific time and place Chloe's party, she grounded the complaint in verifiable fact. Liam couldn't really deny the event happened.
He couldn't. He could only process her observation about his comments. It's much harder to argue with.
And then I see here she immediately described the effect of his comments using that strategic idiom we talked about.
Yes, she quantified the damage, so to speak. She told him that a few of us felt like we were walking on eggshells around you.
And notice the phrasing there. A few of us felt like.
Yes, that's so important. This validates the feeling as a collective, measurable impact. It makes it less about Maria's individual complaint and more about the dynamic of the whole group. It's very hard to argue against the stated feeling of a group of your friends.
Let's just imagine the counter scenario for a second. What if Maria had been less subtle and just said, you were rude at Chloe's party? What would have happened?
Well, if she had used a word like rude, Liam's likely immediate psychological response would be one of shame and anger.
He'd feel attacked.
He would instantly feel attacked, and the rest of the conversation would be spent with him defending his character. He'd be arguing, I wasn't rude, I was just stressed, or that's not what I meant.
The conversation derails.
Completely. By using walking on eggshells, she removes that heavy moral judgment and frames it as a stress-induced state in the environment, which allows him the space to acknowledge the impact without having to defend his intent.
That is such a crucial distinction. Okay, so the source material highlighted the moment when Liam finally lowered his guard. He admitted he'd been under a lot of pressure, and Maria's response here was apparently key. She said, "It's not like you at all."
The study called this reinforcement as allyship. And it's just brilliant. It's so powerful. By saying, it's not like you at all, she positioned his difficult behavior as an anomaly, an unfortunate deviation from his true, positive character.
So she validated his real self while still addressing his current behavior.
Yes. And in doing so, she offers him a psychological escape route. It's a way for him to save face.
It's permission to be vulnerable, isn't it? It tells him, I see the good in you, and I'm assuming this recent slip-up is just a temporary issue. Because if she had said, well, you seem to be this way now, the door to any kind of reconciliation would be slammed shut.
It's over. And you can see how it works, because when Liam could finally admit, honestly, I feel a bit out of sorts lately, he was using the exact compassionate framework Maria had already provided for him.
He picked up on her language.
He did. He admitted he wasn't himself, which allowed him to accept her observation, not as a criticism, but as a necessary. I think the text called it a wake-up call.
In the final piece, the strategic close, she framed the whole conversation as a chance to clear the air and to just check in.
She concluded by returning to the relational purpose. She didn't demand an apology. She didn't demand a change in behavior. She just confirmed that the tension was gone and offered ongoing support.
And that strengthens the friendship, doesn't it? Because it proves that their relationship is robust enough to handle these difficult truths.
It makes it profoundly stronger. It becomes a win-win scenario centered entirely on mutual care.
That is truly mastering the tactical language of difficult conversations. It's about leading with concern, offering gentle evidence, and always concluding with connection. Okay, so having analyzed the very tactical language needed for uncomfortable honesty, we now move to, well, the ultimate test of genuine presence.
Navigating the language of grief.
Yeah. This is where we all fear saying something hollow or something cliche or worse, something that accidentally minimizes the loss.
Grief is just.
Yeah.
It's non-negotiable territory. Our language has to communicate a real depth of feeling and an authentic presence, all while respecting the magnitude of the loss.
And the stakes are so high.
They're incredibly high. When people are grieving, they have, and rightly so, zero tolerance for generalized platitudes. They need to hear something real and personal.
So we need phrases that convey authentic emotion and support, stripping away all those cliches we fall back on. Let's dive into the C2 vocabulary for navigating grief, starting with an admission of emotional magnitude, at a loss for words.
This is often the single most powerful thing you can say.
Really? More powerful than some eloquent speech.
Much more powerful. To be at a loss for words is a sincere admission that the enormity of this situation has made your usual speech just inadequate. In a culture that so often demands prepared, polished expressions, this admission of linguistic failure is an act of authentic vulnerability.
I find that so fascinating. Our instinct is always to rush to fill the silence, but you're saying admitting you can't speak is a deeper form of communication.
It is, because it shows you're genuinely affected. It signals profound empathy, and that often speaks louder than any prepared eulogy. It's a genuine presence, not a performance.
Okay. Next, when we're remembering the person who has passed, the sources suggest we often focus on their legacy.
Yes. Focusing on their legacy shifts the energy, even if just for a moment, away from the raw pain of the death itself and toward the lasting positive influence the person had.
So what does that include?
We use it to talk about the lasting mark they left on the world, or the values and lessons they instilled in people. It honors their existence beyond the moment of their loss and validates that their life truly mattered.
But let me ask a critical question here. What if the person who passed was very young? Or perhaps their life was tragically cut short? Would using a word like legacy be too formal, or maybe even inappropriate in that case?
That's a crucial distinction to make. And you're right. In cases of sudden, short, or deeply tragic loss, legacy can feel abstract. It can even feel forced or cruel.
So what's the alternative?
In those situations, the pragmatic strategy shifts to focusing purely on memories and impact. You might say something like, I will always cherish the memories of their vibrant spirit, or their impact on everyone they met in such a short time was profound. The key is to tailor the language to validate the specific quality and length of the life that was lived.
That's an excellent nuance. Now, about checking in on the grieving person. We need an empathetic inquiry that goes far beyond the standard, almost meaningless, how are you? The phrase here is holding up.
How are you holding up is vastly superior. Why? Because it validates the immense strain the person is under. It acknowledges that they are likely struggling.
It gives them permission not to be okay.
It gives them permission to admit to the struggle, that simply surviving or holding up is a worthy effort in itself. It doesn't demand happiness, it demands honesty.
And when we offer support, we need a phrase that overcomes the natural reluctance of the grieving person to impose on others. That phrase is, do not hesitate to reach out.
And this is so important. People who are grieving often feel like a burden. It's a very common feeling. They hesitate to ask for help because they fear imposing on others' busy lives.
Right. Oh, I don't want to bother them.
Exactly. By using the phrase, do not hesitate, you are making the invitation for contact strong, direct, and non-negotiable. You're emphasizing the complete sincerity of your offer, and you're proactively trying to dismantle that social barrier of reluctance.
And finally, a way to express the depth of the collective loss. Sorely missed.
The adverb sorely here is the key. It just means very much or deeply. This is a classic C2 modifier that adds so much weight. Simply saying they will be missed is adequate, it's fine, but saying they will be sorely missed conveys a profound, deep regret. It validates the significance of the absence.
It elevates the sentiment from routine formality to something that sounds like genuine, palpable feeling.
Precisely.
Okay, let's examine the dialogue from the source material. This is David speaking to his colleague Sarah about her grandmother's passing, and it's described as a masterclass in sincerity.
David's whole approach was built on sincerity and specificity. He started simple. Sarah, I was so sorry to hear about your grandmother. I just wanted to offer my deepest sympathies. Standard, but necessary.
And then he personalized it immediately.
Immediately, he said, I was truly at a loss for words when I heard the news. That combination, the formal sympathy followed by the personal vulnerability, it set a very authentic, non-performative tone.
He demonstrated that genuine presence we were talking about rather than just linguistic competence. And then he moved into the power of personal memory.
This is the genius move. This is what separates David from just a typical well-wisher. He shared a specific memory. He said, I only met her once at the company picnic, but I remember how she lit up the room. She had such a vibrant energy.
Why is that one little memory so critical?
Because it affirms that the grandmother was seen and remembered by someone outside the immediate family. It transforms her death from a private tragedy into a publicly recognized loss. It honors the unique, real qualities of the person who is gone.
And the source material mentions Sarah's reaction, a quiet, sad smile. It shows that this one specific memory resonated far more than any generic statement like she was a wonderful woman would have.
Absolutely. Then he transitioned to the empathetic inquiry, linking the loss to that positive influence. He said, it sounds like she left a wonderful legacy. How are you and your family holding up through all of this?
So he used the language of validation and compassion, which allowed Sarah to respond with genuine, low-pressure feedback.
Right. She could just say, we're getting by, taking it one day at a time, no pressure to perform strength.
Okay, and now we get to the critical part, the offer of support. This is where so many people fail by saying that vague, almost useless phrase, let me know if you need anything. David avoided that pitfall.
He understood instinctively or through experience that saying, let me know if you need anything, puts all the emotional and logistical burden back on the grieving person.
They have to figure out what they need, overcome their pride, and then make the call.
Exactly. It's a series of hurdles. David eliminated those barriers by making his offer specific and actionable.
Right. He offered tangible help. He said, if there is anything at all you need, whether it's help covering for you here at work or just someone to grab a coffee with, please do not hesitate to reach out.
See what he did there? By naming specific tasks work coverage, a coffee MC, he provided a menu of actionable support. It's so much easier for Sarah to simply reply, yes, actually, could you cover my 3 p.m. meeting on Thursday?
The barrier to acceptance is massively reduced.
That's the difference between performing sympathy and offering genuine functional support.
And the exchange closed with that powerful C2 modifier. She will be sorely missed by everyone who knew her. The overall focus here is just. It's authenticity, specific memory, empathetic questioning, and concrete, actionable support.
It's the difference between merely being present in the room and being truly helpful. This is C2 language deployed at its highest emotional altitude.
Okay, we move now from the difficult and the tragic to the more frequently encountered social dilemma.
A very common one.
How to decline an invitation without damaging the relationship, or worse, implying that you just don't want to spend time with that person.
This requires a very high-level social strategy. The goal is, on the surface, paradoxical. You have to say an absolute no to the event itself.
But at the same time,
you have to say a resounding, believable yes to the person and to the future of the friendship. It's all about maintaining relational equity while managing your own logistics.
because if you decline poorly, you risk the host thinking, oh, they just don't like me, or they think my party sounds boring. We need linguistic elegance to manage their disappointment.
And the key is demonstrating that the decline is purely a logistical conflict. It is not a relational one. You need warmth, immediate validation of the invitation, and proactive future planning.
Let's delve into our vocabulary for the graceful decline, starting with the classic opening line. Take a rain check.
This is such an elegant way to start any decline. A rain check originated, I believe, in sports and concerts. It was a ticket promising a future chance to attend if the event was canceled because of rain.
Ah, so it has a built-in promise.
It has a promise baked right in. Socially, it's a promise to accept the offer, the dinner, the party, the visit at a later date. It transforms a blunt no into a not now, which powerfully preserves your future intent.
But the phrase rain check can be used so casually that it sometimes loses its weight, don't you think? How do we make sure it sounds sincere and not just like a blow-off?
You're right, it can.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you must pair it with genuine regret and a specific future plan, which we'll cover in a moment. If you just text back rain check, it sounds incredibly dismissive.
Right.
If you say, I am so disappointed, but I'm going to have to take a rain check, and here's when we can get together instead, it absolutely holds its value.
Okay. Now, for the non-negotiable reason for declining. We need terms that sound significant and unimpeachable, the source gives us. Prior commitment or pre-existing engagement.
These terms are strategically vague and slightly formal, and that is their greatest asset.
How so?
They sound significant, non-negotiable, and they ethically shut down any pressure or further negotiation from the host. If you just say, oh, I'm busy, you invite interrogation. Busy doing what?
True.
But if you state you have a long-standing prior commitment, the listener understands that this is a defined obligation that cannot be moved. It closes the door, but it does so respectfully.
This addresses the need for the reason to be believable, but not overly detailed. We don't owe our hosts a minute-by-minute breakdown of our schedule.
Exactly. And the source material actually noted that declines that are too detailed often sound like transparent excuses, and they actually damage trust more than a vague but firm reason does.
Interesting. Okay. To convey genuine, deep regret, we turn to a British idiom that packs a necessary punch. Gutted.
To be gutted just means to be extremely disappointed or devastated. It's a strong, informal word that signals high emotional regret.
So it's more powerful than bummed or sad.
Oh, much more. When you say, I'm absolutely gutted that I can't make it, you are conveying to the host that your absence is involuntary and that it's genuinely painful for you. This is such a powerful mechanism for softening the blow of rejection and validating the quality of their invitation.
It's a great example of C2 competence, isn't it? Using strong, specific, emotive language where a more basic speaker might just say, oh, I'm a little sad.
Precisely. That's the step up.
Next, the proactive element that makes the whole graceful decline actually work, offering an alternative.
This is not optional. I want to stress that. This is the absolute core of the strategy. By proactively suggesting a specific alternative time or event, you proved definitively that your decline is solely about scheduling logistics.
And not about avoiding the person.
Not at all. This is the essence of social grace. You are transforming the logistical no into an undeniable relational yes.
And finally, a warm, enthusiastic adjective to wish them well for the event they're having without you. Fabulous.
Using a word like fabulous or amazing, wonderful, maintains the celebratory, positive energy of their invitation, even in your absence. I hope you have the most fabulous time, ensures that you are still cheering them on from the sidelines.
It reinforces that you value them and their event, even if you can't participate.
Yep.
Okay, let's look at the interaction from the study. It's between Chloe and Tom regarding his birthday party. And Chloe apparently executed the architecture of the decline perfectly.
Her opening move was so critical. Immediate, enthusiastic validation. She didn't lead with the rejection. That's the key.
So what did she say?
She led with relational warmth. Tom, that sounds absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for the invitation. She validates the invitation and the friendship before any negative information is even introduced.
So that initial yes to the invitation's quality creates a buffer, which makes the no that follows far less painful.
Correct. Then came the soft landing. She used that strong regret paired with the promise. I am absolutely gutted that I can't join, but I'm going to have to take a rain check this time.
So she communicated both the emotional pain of the decline and the clear intent for a future meeting, all in one sentence.
And she immediately followed it with the unimpeachable reason that shut down any negotiation.
The prior commitment.
Yes, she gave just the right amount of detail. I have a long-standing prior commitment that weekend, a family wedding out of town that I simply can't get out of.
A family wedding is universally understood as a non-negotiable life event.
Exactly. The vagueness of prior commitment, combined with the specificity of family wedding, provides perfect, respectful closure to any questioning.
Let's contrast this with a less strategic reply that was also found in this study. Let's say she just said, "I'm sorry, I'm busy that night."
Ugh. That phrase sounds so cold and incomplete. The host inevitably feels that if you really value the relationship, you would just drop whatever minor busy thing you were doing to be there.
So busy implies low prioritization.
It does. Chloe's choice, the long-standing commitment, communicates a high prioritization of an unmovable obligation. It changes the perceived reason for her decline from "I don't care enough" to "I literally cannot be there."
And then the most crucial element, the one that guarantees the friendship is completely unscathed, was the concrete alternative she offered.
This is the genius move. This is the essence of the graceful decline. Chloe didn't wait for Tom to maybe suggest something later. She proactively proposed a specific plan.
What was it?
She said, "How about an alternative? Could I treat you to a birthday lunch or dinner the following week to hear all about it? My treat."
Oh, that's good. By suggesting a specific follow-up lunch or dinner and taking the initiative to pay with "my treat," she concretely proved her sincerity and her commitment to their relationship.
She actually leveraged the decline to solidify the relationship by planning future time together.
It's brilliant.
She moved the disappointment directly into a positive, forward-looking plan. That is the definition of advanced social competence. And her closing, wishing him to have the most fabulous time, just reinforced all that warmth right up to the final word.
This entire deep dive, analyzing how to address a difficult conversation, how to handle grief, how to navigate social obligations, it just makes it profoundly clear that mastering C2 English isn't really about grammar, is it?
Not at all.
It's about deploying these linguistic tools with a high degree of emotional intelligence to navigate real-world complex relationships.
Absolutely. We've moved so far beyond mere fluency today and into the deep complexities of human connection, where language is the mechanism for empathy, for support, and for profound relationship building.
These skills broaching difficult subjects with care, offering sincere sympathy, navigating social obligations with grace, they really do represent the zenith of communicative competence.
They do. They separate a competent speaker from a truly connecting one.
We really hope we've provided you with the frameworks and the specific, nuanced vocabulary to approach these sensitive situations with more confidence, knowing that you have the right words and that you can deliver them with the right intent.
Remember, the true mastery of personal communication lies in that combination of strategy and sincere intent.
And as you move forward, in your daily life, would encourage you to listen not just to the words people say, the surface content, the grammar, but to the underlying needs and emotions behind them.
Are they seeking validation? Are they seeking help? Are they just seeking connection?
And then choose words that build up that comfort and that genuinely connect.
That insight, that one shift in how you listen, will serve you better than any grammatical rule ever could.
A truly powerful thought to end on. Thank you so much for engaging in this deep dive into linguistic subtlety.
Stay curious, stay articulate, and continue to use the power of language to make a positive impact on the world around you.
Until next time.